We also watched AEW Dynamite June 17th, 2020.
I thought this show was great.
We open with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Natural Nightmares. And I'll just go ahead and say one thing now. Usually on the show, like, they run down the card, and then they say the last match, and then that last match is the opener. This time, they did the opener, and then ran down the rest of this card, and I thought it was a big improvement. I like this way better. So I asked last week why the Natural Nightmares were getting this title shot, and as they're making their entrance, lo and behold, they have a 5-0 record as a tag team. Now, that's cool. I'm happy about that. I would like some more info. I don't need to list all the teams they've beaten, but maybe show me the last one they had, or the best
Vinny,
team they've beaten.
Well, Vinny, I presume you noticed this, but they had a crawler multiple times on this show running down who beat who on this week's edition of AEW Dark.
I did notice that.
I presume they're going to do that every week. I'm not going to say that it's because of our show, but that was your criticism, and it was my criticism too last week when I was ranting about Penelope Ford and how she was getting a title shot, but we never see her win. And lo and behold, listen, I don't even care if you don't show me what happened on Dark, but, like, run the crawler. You run the crawler at the bottom of the screen. It doesn't get in the way of the match. You do it a couple of times, and I can see, wow, Penelope Ford, she got a win on that show. And the Natural Nightmares, they got a win on that show. And if you do it every week, then you don't have the question, why are the Natural Nightmares the number one contenders? Because you've at least seen that they are, in fact, wrestling on another show and winning all those matches. So I liked it.
It's an improvement. It's a step in the right direction. My criticism of this would be, don't do it. Do it as a crawler. That's an improvement. I made that clear. I have said it a few times now, but I saw the crawler. I wasn't paying attention to the crawler. I certainly wasn't memorizing the crawler. I will forget what was on the crawler tomorrow, let alone by next week. So just show me a video package of people getting wins on Dark. It should take 30 seconds in a 2-hour show. You can do it. Well,
if a team is getting a championship match on TV, I am not at all opposed to the idea of do a 30-second shot of their big wins on Dark and Dynamite before they actually get the championship match. I don't think you need to waste time every single week showing clips from Dark. I mean, seeing the who beat who and also seeing what everyone's record is, I mean, that's a lot of information right there. But I would not be opposed to a video package showing highlight clips of who they've beaten right before they actually get the championship match.
15 seconds. That's all you got to do. So, during this match, Britt Baker is positioned over by the announce desk. She has isolated herself due to, as Tony Schiavone explained, I don't know. But as she has isolated herself, she has rigged an elaborate Rube Goldberg-style pulley system so she can pass notes to Tony, and he can let the audience at home know what she's thinking at any given time. So that's great comedy. Now, this match ruled. Dustin Rhodes and Kenny Omega. Oh, what a pair. I need a singles match of those two, like, right now. You would think it would be Dustin and Hangman, get the two cowboys in there, but no, it's Dustin and Omega who were really great. I mean, that's because they're both just really great in general. But yes, 2020, Goldust is selling awesome matches on primetime national cable television, and that's an amazing feat. QT Marshall, a guy I have not seen a ton of. We have been watching Saturday Night's Main Event and watching a lot of, bear with me here. We've been watching a lot of Adrian Adonis matches. Now, Adrian Adonis looked worse than QT Marshall does and flew better, but they're similar in that QT Marshall does not look like he should be able to move the way he does. He's a thick, athletic fella, I guess, but in the world of pro wrestling, he has absolutely nothing special as a physique, but this guy can move. He's doing dives.
He can move, but he has this space-flying tiger drop, which is ungodly, preposterously ugly. But he's going to get it over because of how ugly it is.
I believe that was the name of the move, at least what Excalibur said. One of the announcers talked about that. That's the ugly tiger drop.
Yes.
But he did more than that. He was doing kip-ups. He was taking these big-ass flying bumps. He's a hell of an athlete. So the key to the story of this match is Ali did not come out with QT to begin the match, but there's a big train wreck spot near the end, And then Allie appears. Brandy is unhappy about this, but doesn't do anything. They just cheerlead from two separate locations. And eventually QT is isolated. And this is the kind of finish that I just love because it's very realistic. They hit him with a move. He kicked out. They hit him with another move. He kicked out. They just shrugged. They hit their finish, and they pinned him. So that's what happened in a real fight. If this is real.
They are the better team.
Yes.
And they proved it.
Plan A didn't work. Plan B didn't work. It wasn't disastrous. They didn't need to overcomplicate it. It was 700 breakups or anything. They just said, QT's life bar ran out. He was beaten. Great. It was a very, very, very fun tag team opener.
Thought it was a very, very good title match. Excellent opener.
Yes. Tonight on Dynamite, Cody defends the TNT Championship against somebody from outside AEW, a hand-picked opponent, we are told. Billy versus MJF. The Superbad Squad versus the Young Bucks. And in the main event, Les Sex Gods versus the Best Friends, with the winner getting a title shot at Fyter Fest. And up next, Anna Jay in action. Now, this is all really very, very well done. Anna Jay was on one episode of Dynamite from QT's gym, I believe. She made quite an impression. She's very young. She is very pretty. She's advanced well beyond her experience level. She fit right in on this show on national television. She came off like a prodigy. And they've shown her in the crowd several times in the month that have followed. They have talked about her on Twitter quite a bit. And here they advertised her. Stay tuned to see Anna Jay. So they go to commercial. They come back, and now there's an Anna Jay video package. And she's just the sweetest young lady. As soon as she got signed to AEW, she knew she had to work 10 times harder. She had so much to do, so much to learn. Mostly, she says, she wants to bring character to the ring. She wants to entertain people, and that's why she calls herself the star of the show. And the match is Anna Jay versus Abaddon. Not the same Abaddon who once pantsed you in a battle royal in British Columbia.
Fuck that guy.
So,
I mean, this name had to have come from Luther.
It probably did, actually. Well, Dr. Luther was working with one of the...
it was him
Abaddon.
and Abaddon and Lazenby.
Paul Lazenby.
Paul Lazenby. These
the fourth
fuckers
guy.
all ganged up on me and pulled my pants down in a battle royal.
Yes.
How dare they?
How dare they? Because it was fun.
I've never forgotten.
No. So this Abaddon was also a young lady, but I mean this in the nicest possible way. She was not the pretty one here. She was not trying to be the pretty one here. She's crawling to the ring.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Vinny, she may have been prettier than Anna Jay, but we will never know because she is profusely covered in paint and blood and gore.
Gore and different colored contact lenses. She's crawling out to the ring like, that girl from the ring, in fact. And there's video effects for her entrance. It's all blurry. And they're trying to talk about Anna Jay, and JR is just pissing himself with fear about this Abaddon person. And these two combatants square off before the bell, and man, the term baby face has never been more appropriate. that was the heel over here. That's the baby face. Britt passes a note to Tony, noting that Abaddon needs to find Jesus. I laughed.
We don't know that.
That's what Britt said. I'm just reporting what Britt said. So, I've been asking who trained these women. They just show up on Dynamite out of nowhere, and they're all like TV ready. Anna Jay was trained by Glacier. That's good to know. Abaddon squashed her. It went 1 minute. She was winning for about 55 seconds of it, and she did that Hurricane Rana to Anna when she was on her knees, and Anna's face spiked into the mat. I've seen Amazing Red do this move. I'm sure somebody else has, but spiked her head into a mat with the Rana and pinned her. And look at that. Abaddon gets the big upset win because you can't do the same thing every single time. And I assume they're going to do something with Abaddon now.
Well, I was very surprised, but the reality was we basically had two people debuting as signed talent on AEW Dynamite. Anna Jay had the one match, but she got the contract afterwards. And this was Abaddon's debut, I believe, as a signed talent. And one of them had to win. and it was Abaddon, and it was a cool upset because you weren't expecting it, but it was fine. And it set up the Dark Order coming out and giving a contract, an envelope to Colt Cabana, and attempting to recruit Anna Jay, which when I first saw it, I was like she just debuted. But then I realized, I mean, whatever about however she'd been in the audience, but her debut, she was a heel. So, I mean, that was how she started here in AEW. It was as a heel against Hikaru Shida. So I think it was Hikaru Shida. But anyway, they creeped her to the back, or the creepers creeped her to the back. And I guess we wait to see who actually joins the Dark Order. But Anna Jay, as a member of the Dark Order, would get her on TV most weeks.
Yes.
And she would not necessarily be in the ring most weeks.
No.
And it would be a chance for her to do something while learning. And they need some names in the Dark Order. They need some recruits.
Sure.
And she'd be great. So we'll see what happens.
When she's down in the ring and the words joindarkorder.com appear on the screen, like immediately lights flashed in my head and I thought, do not put a mask on this woman.
Well, that was my first thought, too. I'm quite confident she will be maskless.
Well, they came out, some of them are wearing masks, but Grayson is not. Brody Lee, of course, is not. There's somebody else there who's not. So somewhere, Silver and the guys who lose all the time. I forget their names again. But anyway, some of them have masks, some don't. And so she doesn't need to wear one. Also, while they were out there, the Evil Uno approached Colt Cabana with an envelope. And Colt looked at the contents of this envelope, was very confused. Isaiah Cassidy peeked over. He basically photobombed Colt. He may have been a legit photobomb for all I know. He also looked at the contract. I beg your pardon. He looked at the contents of the envelope, and he was very, very impressed by what he saw. And yes, Anna did leave with the Dark Order. MJF versus Billy of the Gun Club.
Yes.
I watched Goldust and Billy Gunn on the same show. So they had, you'd be stunned, a very basic, very old school match. MJF did some comedy. For while he is very muscular, for a pro wrestler, he's very small, and Billy Gunn is essentially a dinosaur. He's just massive. So there's a comedy about how small he is. But he's very smart, and he's very wily. He took the wheels out from this giant. He chop blocked him repeatedly, took him down with a variety of leg holds, worked the leg for a while. Billy made a comeback, but his Faymaster got countered. MJF hit his own. I beg your pardon. MJF's Faymaster was countered. Billy hit the Faymaster. But there's a big melee with Wardlow and the younger members of the Gun Club at ringside. Wardlow passes the ring into Max. Max slips on the ring, grins for the camera, but remains down prone on the mat. And Wardlow takes out the pop guns outside. So Billy takes out Wardlow. When he gets back to the ring, Max hits him with a ring punch and gets the pin. God, MJF is great.
So this match was not great, but I watched the match and it was like, well, this is the exact same fucking match I would have done. Because Billy Gunn's like 56 years old and he's limited in what he can do. And so if you're going to put the match together, the question is, okay, we got to tell a story. It's got to be a story match. It's got to play to his strengths, which are basically just his strength. And like when you watch MJF work in this match, it's like it's the classic match where there's movement because of him.
Yeah.
Like he does a lot of movement and Billy does a lot of standing there. And like in some ways, this is not a 5-star match, but like for what it was a perfect match. This is the match. This is the exact match that should have been worked with Billy Gunn. And yeah, it was good. Then we had a big brawl afterwards.
Big brawl, MJF and Wardlow versus the Jurassic Express. And we all know MJF and Jungle Boy is going to be a feud for like 20 years. But at some point, you would think MJF would find one more lackey and they could just do a trios match. Then, as Jim Ross says, let's go to Alex Marvez, who is standing by with two very sexy men. So Alex is there to interview Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. And his question is, simple question, why did you attack Orange Cassidy? And Jericho replies, simple question, simple answer. You got a fat head, Marvez. So Orange had the audacity to interrupt the Inner Circle twice. So they beat him to a pulp. They're going to do the same thing to the
pulp.
best friend. Okay, yes.
How old?
They're going to do the same thing to the best friends tonight and challenge for the tag titles. They're not best friends. They're brothers. They're blood brothers, and blood is thicker than orange juice.
Part of me feels that like Jericho must have wanted to work with Orange Cassidy for like 6 months because one day he just thought of the line, beat him to a pulp, and the rest is history.
That's actually entirely possible. This whole program just could be a result of that. So Tony goes.
And by the way, the best part was they start doing they're burying Orange, they're doing their thing, and then I think it was Jericho. One of them talked about beating him to a pulp, and as soon as they say that, they just
of course,
pulp.
Yes,
it's like the greatest.
So Tony goes to interview Britt Baker in her Britt Doctormobile with the Rolls Royce. It is.
Yes.
And he explains to her that Penelope Ford will be getting the title shot at Fyter Fest. Britt is very upset about this, that even though, despite her injuries, that she's still been surpassed in the rankings. She's upset Tony told this, broke it to her now. She puts him on a friendship timeout, and now AEW and TNT are going to be very angry with him because he's just lost this interview. And he tells Reba to drive her away. But the camera pans over, and it's not Reba driving the golf cart, it's Big Swole. And Big Swole turns back to look at her and asks, "Where to, Doctor?" In an absolute blatant, unapologetic parody of The Undertaker kidnapping Stephanie McMahon. And then Big Swole drives her away.
Yes. A classic moment in WWF history.
Cody
they should call it the whole, the what do they call it? The Rolls Hoist. I'll never quit.
Oh, that's why. Cody versus a mystery opponent. So Cody comes out, and it's not even subtle anymore. He's turning heel. It's just a question of when the actual switch will be flipped, I guess. But he says, "I don't know if I'm still in the Elite anymore. I don't know if the Nightmare family is even a family. But I'm not here to talk. Here's the coach, Arn Anderson." And Arn says, "I know you can beat Jake Hager, but the timing is not right. Let's move on. Let's move past that. You have an opponent tonight who is qualified, an opponent who is talented, a guy you can take it to and hone your skills. That's what we've been looking for." So basically, they want a tomato can, but not the bottom of the barrel, but like the second level up. So we get a video package on Absolute Ricky Starks.
I was so happy when I heard that Ricky Starks was appearing on AEW Dynamite, because for a while I was watching the
NWA
Dark
Power?
Show and NWA Power like every Tuesday, and it finally was just like too overwhelming. There was just too much stuff to watch. But Ricky Starks was like a hero on that NWA show, and he was so good. And I thought, man, this guy is so talented. And I heard he was getting a shot here, and the video package. He was great in the video package. He was great on his ring entrance. He was great getting in the ring, and he was great working. He came off like a guy, like, I'm sure there were a lot of people that had never heard the name Ricky Starks.
I will raise my hand. I had not heard the name Ricky Starks before.
And, like, when you saw him, it's like, this fucking guy is so good. Like, he's really good. And he worked this match, which was supposed to legitimately just be a tryout match. He was so fucking good that they immediately signed him. And they not only immediately signed him, but they signed him and they already have a storyline for the guy. So, there you go.
Promo package was very good. Former NWA TV champ, the hottest free agent on the market. He says, "This open challenge is a chance for me to get my foot in the door and prove I belong with the best of AEW. I have been broke. I've slept in my car, but I've got grit and determination just like you, Cody. I'm here to prove I can go the distance." So, match is very competitive. Technically, this match was really, really good. And Ricky Starks was not a rookie. This guy's a polished professional wrestler. He's really, really good at what he does.
I love this match as much as I did not like the Cody Mark Quinn match because of the selling. I thought this match was fucking great.
My complaint about this match is Cody is a wishy-washy face heel, whatever he is now, and Ricky Starks comes out, and the storyline is that he's obviously a baby face who's been fighting, sacrificing everything to get here, and this is his one big chance to make it. But the way the match was put together, there was no baby face and no heel in this match. It was just two guys doing moves. The moves were really cool. I want to stress that. The moves were really cool. But there was no comeback. There was no heat. There was no reason to really cheer for either guy. And eventually, Cody won with the Crossroads.
I thought there was a heat. Starks sent him rib first into the ropes. He worked him over for a while. And Cody ended up making a comeback. And I thought it was a largely traditional style match. I think Cody's just a full-fledged babyface. I don't know what you're seeing. But even the line by Arn, I thought Arn was being sincere. We got a guy here. He's a guy you can take it to and also hone your skills. This guy's got talent, he was saying. Am I the only one?
I may be the one seeing this wrong. That's been known to happen.
Anyway, I really liked this match. Thought it was very good.
Superbad Squad versus the Young Bucks. I just love, capital L, capital O, capital V, capital E. The referee is checking Jimmy Havoc before the match. He finds a pair of pliers in Jimmy Havoc's pants. He takes them away, and Havoc shrugs I forgot. I didn't know they were in there.
I thought I got all of my foreign objects out of my trousers.
Because Jimmy Havoc is a slime ball who will try to sneak a weapon into the ring if he can. And if he can't, oh well, he'll go about his business some other way. But it's just the most subtle, awesome thing to remind you that Jimmy Havoc is evil. So the Butcher and the Blade are in the crowd taunting the Young Bucks. They get in the apron, which allows Jimmy Havoc, he can use the pliers, but he finds one of those freshly mopped floor, wet floor signs, big plastic flat thing, and he just whacks somebody with it for the heat. And if you thought a bag of oranges was a preposterous weapon to use last week, I don't think you could hit someone, as someone who's mopped a lot of floors at grocery stores before, I don't think you could hit someone with a sign hard enough to damage them. It was silly. So after the break, FTR come out to watch the Bucks back and make sure Butcher and Blade don't do any other shenanigans. Nick makes his comeback. As always, it's awesome. There's another sign shot in this match. It just keeps going. The Bucks prep for the Meltzer driver, but they're distracted because now the teams on the floor are brawling. And suddenly, I guess it was from his ear, but I don't know when it happened or where it happened, but it appeared Kip Sabian slit his throat. Now, apparently it was just bleeding badly from the ear, dripping down his neck and across his throat. But I legit
That's
screamed.
also not good.
Well, it's not good. It's a lot of blood, but it's better than having a slit throat, which is seriously what I thought happened. I screamed when I saw it. They do 500 finishers. The Bucks make Kip Sabian tombstone his own partner, Jimmy Havoc. Hit a double Kamagure. I've said that, butchered that, but the double knee thing. They pinned him. It was probably longer than it needed to be, but a lot of fun stuff happened. And then Butcher and Blade and FTR and the Bucks and the Superbad Squad are all brawling. And the end of the brawl is on one side of the ring, the Bucks are going for the Meltzer driver. On the other side of the ring, the FTR is going for the Mindbreaker. And they look at each other like, oh, the audacity of those fuckers to do a stuffed pile driver. Well, we're trying to do a stuffed pile driver. So there you go. The tease for Bucks and FTR is continuing.
They're doing a lot of teasing here for a match that I'm not expecting till September. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they hold this off. I figure it's going to be similar to my idea of the FTR is going to beat every team that beat the Young Bucks and then say that they're next or whatever. They're going to keep trying to make sure that nobody beats up the Young Bucks so that they're fresh. I think there's a lot of things they can do, but dude, it's middle of June. We gotta make it all the way till first week of September.
It's a very fine line between, and if you do a long build, that means that theoretically there's more anticipation for the payoff. But you can also run the risk of running that build into the ground and then having everyone just sick of it.
Long builds worked in the old days because you did not have weekly episodic television. You had syndicated shows, a bunch of squash matches. When you're running shows and angles every single week, I mean, it's a lot different.
It
so
is.
I don't think they're going to be on TV every week. I think
Yeah.
they're just there now, but we'll see.
If they do stuff like this every week, yes, it will run its course within a month max. So they should not be in the ring together every week. They don't even need to mention each other in every promo they do, unless it's like one passing line at the end about all the teams in AEW or whatever. But you're right. It's a delicate line they have to walk. Taz and Cage drew a promo out under a freeway somewhere for some reason, but it was funny. So Taz explains the circumstances of last week's incident with Jon Moxley. They were in their very nice trailer, hanging out in the air conditioning, drinking whey protein, like body guys do, when they heard Moxley running his mouth. And they got into it with Moxley. Moxley liked to say, "You're the most miserable son of a bitch." Can't even talk. You like to say, "You're the most miserable son of a bitch in the world." That gimmick was taken decades ago by me. And Cage talks a little bit about how he can't decide.
Taz is so much better of a Taz than you are as a Taz, Vinny.
Oh. Brian, I agree.
Thank you. He's fucking the greatest.
Thank God you're here.
When he had that line about Moxley stealing his gimmick of a miserable son of a bitch, that was great.
Yeah. Cage talks a little bit about how he can't decide what he's looking forward to more, dropping Moxley on his head or taking that AEW title. Then we get a Moxley video package. He's also a great talker. He says he's in this business because he has demons, bad ones. And the only thing that keeps them at bay is hurting people in the ring. So beat me if you can. Survive if you're the kind of miserable son of a bitch who can survive the deep water I'm going to take you to. Next week on Dynamite, Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. And this is a subtle thing, but it was awesome. For all these matches, they just put up a graphic. Here's guy A, here's guy B, or Team E or Team B. For this one, there's a picture of Sammy Guevara, and he's standing there. And there's a picture of Matt Hardy, but Matt's head is surrounded by blurry images of all his different personas. And there's Team Extreme Matt Hardy, and there's Broken Matt Hardy, and there's Elite Matt Hardy, and I lost track of all the others, but that's just a really subtle thing that sets him apart. It was cool. So Guevara versus Hardy. It explained the envelope that Colt Cabana had earlier on the show was in fact a contract that he will team with Mr. Brody Lee against Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss next week.
That's right. So he's not officially in the Dark Order.
No, he's not.
It's basically like a Dark Order tryout. But he is trying them out.
It could, yeah. It's.
If he teams with them and they win, it's like, man, I won with the Dark Order.
Sure, but based on his reaction to this envelope, this is not his idea. I guess he's going along with it, but it's not his plan. We also have Wardlow versus MJF in a lumberjack match. FTR versus the Natural Nightmares, which sounds awesome. And then Jon Moxley in action with Taz on commentary. And then for Fyter Fest, there's 3 matches officially. Cody versus Jake Hager for the TN title. Hikaru Shida versus Penelope Ford for the women's title. And Jon Moxley versus Cage for the world title. And there's also a tag team title match, but that is yet to be set in stone until the main event of this show. So for those of you who may be newer customers and have not been around the Brian and Vinny Show, first of all, welcome. Thank you for listening. If you're curious about what the early days of the Brian and Vinny Show were like, I would instruct you to watch this promo. Rebel is stalking Britt on her phone.
Yes.
Britt has been left in a dumpster, and she cuts this entire promo with a banana peel on her head just because it's funny. Now, keep in mind, this is all supposed to be, I don't know if it was live, it's supposed to be live. But Britt screams, "Where have you been? I've been in here for 5 hours." And Rebel says, "It's been like an hour." And Britt says, "You're fired." And Rebel says, "I'm fired? I'm free?" And Britt says, "No, you're rehired."
This is starting to sound familiar.
It does ring several bells. She wants to know, where the hell is Tony? And Rebel says, "Well, you gave me friendship timeout." It doesn't matter. He should be here.
Okay, so who's Tony in this relationship, Vinny?
It may actually be Tony Leader.
It may be.
It may be. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I guess he did have a little to do with this back then.
I'm not even sure. Kind of the analogy kind of falls apart at this point. So
actually, not really, because in 2005 he was much more involved. He was doing UFC reviews. He was doing all sorts of things.
That's true.
Yes,
That's a good point. So Britt is first upset there's a camera crew there, but as long as they're there, she's going to give Big Swole a message. So she gives Big Swole a message. The whole time, this banana peel is still in her head. So Swole, you will literally pay for this. I will sue you. You will pay fines. You will never forget the day you kidnapped Britt Baker. Now, Reva, get me out of here. I've been in here for 6 hours. Britt Baker's amazing. I don't know if I can
So awesome.
stress this enough. She's so out of this world fantastic.
And you know what? I hate to say this because I hate to see anybody get hurt. But her getting hurt is like the best thing that ever happened to her. Because she's going to get to do shit like this every week on TV, and she's going to get so over.
Yes.
As opposed to being on TV every other week, just like doing matches and commentary here and there.
Absolutely. What she's best at, she can still do. And it's going to work. It's going to pay off in the long run. Unkillable Matt Hardy joins the announce desk. We've seen a lot of announcers on AEW over the past, almost a year now. And Matt Hardy was not the best one. He was boring. He was flat throughout the match. He didn't have much interesting to say. He didn't have much insightful to say. He didn't have much entertaining to say.
Well, he was being Matt Hardy. He was not being broken Matt Hardy. He was not being any of these wacky characters. He was being Matthew Hardy, putting over his opponent that he's going to face next week, attempting to... I mean, there's a lot going on in this relationship, but he basically wants Sammy Guevara to be Jeff Hardy. And he's putting him over, and he's building him up, and that's pretty much his whole job on commentary.
So the match is Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, Les Sex Gods versus the Best Friends. The Best Friends wanted this match because Jericho attacked their other best friend last week, so they do not come out grappling. They had to bring a house of fire and try to kick these guys' asses. A bat shot gets used several times, actually. My favorite part of this match is when Sammy Guevara goes up top and he gets crotched. He lands straddling the turnbuckle, and as he's selling the shot, the camera's in his face and he's moaning, "No, no, not my Spanish gods!" I laughed. There's another bat shot on Trent. Sammy has a shooting star press. It's not the finish. And then as Sammy is running the ropes, a cameraman nonchalantly, even lazily, reaches out and trips him. He's off balance. Trent grabs him, hits a sit-down pile driver for the win. So the Best Friends retain their title shot. It will be the Best Friends against Omega and Page at Fyter Fest for the tag titles. So Guevara's down in the ring. He's been dropped on his head. Jericho's very upset and depressed about all this. He's slumped against the ropes. Can't believe they lost these dingbats. And behind him, the cameraman slowly puts down his camera, takes off his hat, reveals himself to be none other than Orange Cassidy. Very slowly, not in a hurry, not rushed, taking his time with all this. And he gets in the ring, and they have a stare down for 3 seconds. Then Orange Cassidy just unloads on him. Orange has a great gimmick, and Orange works an incredibly smart style, but when it is time to go, Orange is so unbelievably great. He just tore Jericho in half.
I try to tell everybody that for months when people were freaking out about Orange Cassidy.
Oh, God, he's awesome. He just ripped Jericho to shreds. Jericho runs for his life. And then Tony Schiavone informs us that Tony Khan has officially signed Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy for Fyter Fest. That match is going to rule.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, good match. Love the angle. Think the match is going to be a lot of fun. Fyter Fest is, what is it today? Today is
2 weeks.
So we got 2 weeks of Orange Cassidy, Chris Jericho build leading to that match. It's going to be very interesting. That match is going to be very interesting.
Oh, that match is going to be fantastic. I think I'm looking forward to that more than anything else in that show. Yeah, next week is the go-home show for Night 1 of Fyter Fest. They're not specified if it's Night 1 or Night 2. Well, Brian, it's time to vote.
You know, last week I believe that I voted... Did I vote NXT and you voted NXT, or what was the voting last week?
Last week, according to my records, we both voted NXT.
Okay. So, somebody, it might have been on the board, but somebody noted that every time we vote NXT, it's like cursed with a terrible show the following week. And I would not say that NXT was a terrible show this week at all, but I will say that I am voting handily for AEW this week. I thought it. I sometimes I watch them and I'm like, I'm not sure who I'm going to vote for, or maybe I think I'm going to vote for one over the other, and then when we review them, I change my mind. But like when I watched AEW last night, I was like, NXT is going to have a fucking great show to win. And when NXT was over, I thought they did not have a fucking great show. AEW wins. And going into this show, I thought, maybe Vinny will convince me otherwise, but you did not. And so, without question, my vote this week goes to AEW.
Yeah, I kind of had... I got to the same place you did, but through the opposite process. I watched both these shows today on Thursday. I had a very busy Thursday. I was kind of behind, kind of hectic. I was a little stressed out, and I was not totally into either show when either one was done, and I was actually thinking I was going to be voting a tie, but as I'm going over my notes here, I realized this was no tie. AEW was definitely a better show, and I was just in a bad mood. So I'm voting AEW.
Well, there you go. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for today. And Sunday, I shall return